Welcome to the Black Script Storytellers. My name is Kevin Marable, and today our guest is an actor, writer, and comedian. He starred in a slew of shorts as well as major TV shows such as Station 19 and The Punisher on Netflix. Recently, you might have caught him as the paramedic in the latest franchise Bad Boys film, Ride or Die. Today, we have with us the super talented Alex Joseph Pires.
Boom. What
Did
an
I say that
intro.
right?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Awesome. Alex, how you doing today, man?
I'm vibing, man. All positive vibes. How you doing?
I'm great, man. Great. Happy to have you on. Happy to finally be able to speak to you face to face, even though it's virtual.
Right.
But it's great to have you on and great to talk to you today, man.
Back at you. Really appreciate you having me here. I love what you do with the Black Script. Just, not only highlighting people who have already been doing big things,
Hmm.
but those of us who are coming up. And, you put your money where your mouth is as far as, community um, and lifting up. So kudos to
Yeah,
you, man. I really appreciate you.
absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's what we do here. I like to shed spotlight, give flowers, provide education, information, not gatekeep to our community. So that way we have a better understanding, better perspective as to what it takes to get into this business. And also, to shed light on all the amazing people that are within the business. So, with that being said, man, we'll go ahead and get started. I have a very interesting question I like to ask all of my guests in the very beginning. It's a simple question, but some might find it difficult to answer. Are you ready?
Well, with a build up like that, we'll see.
The question is, who is Alex Pires?
Who am I? I am all the things that you mentioned in your wonderful intro. I would also add creative producer,
Okay. Okay.
um, because there's nothing like getting your hands on a story and a project from the get, and
Mhm.
seeing it all the way through the finish line. So sometimes that requires me being a writer. Sometimes I've just I've helped develop the story, and then I get to act in it or what have you. But as always, there's always so many different hats being worn.
Yeah.
I'm also a Massachusetts boy. I'm a masshole. Born and
That's
raised in
that's the first time I've ever heard that.
really. I can't take credit.
Yeah.
It's not mine, but I wear the badge proudly. I'm from New Bedford originally. There's a huge and really rich history with New Bedford. So it's my hometown is something that, and we'll get into this later, I think, in more in depth. But I'd like to put it on the map again and
Mhm.
create an awareness about it that I think has been lost in recent history. Um, and I'm also just like an artist, man, through and through. I just want to make people laugh. I want to entertain. I want to make people think about stuff.
Right.
So as long as it's positive vibes and, we're all coming out of an experience richer than it was before, that's what I'm all about.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And um, now, yeah, yes, I did mention that you're an actor, a writer, and a comedian, but you added creative producer, and my apologies for not including that. I do actually have some questions about the production side of things. But
Sure.
I wanted to know, out of all of those, which came first for you?
Oh, class clown. Uh, that came first.
Okay.
And then actor. I just always have loved making people laugh. And I
Mhm.
think, or I'm sure it was a coping mechanism, defense mechanism, as a kid. And then, I eventually realized that it's my path, and it's not easy, but it's a simple idea to go for what you're passionate about and what you love, because not that it'll never feel like work, because I think that's a lie too, but but you'll at least feel a lot more enriched. And even if it all didn't work out, whatever that means, um, you went for it. You gave it your all, and you tried to do something beautiful and that means something to you, instead of just kind of coasting along.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. And as far as the acting goes, can you talk a little bit about how you got your start into acting, and maybe some of the training, to build up your craft along the way.
For sure. I in high school did all the drama club, show choir stuff. I was in a program called Upward Bound, which I don't know if that exists outside of Massachusetts, but essentially summer program to give you college credits and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so they would do a show at the end of the summer, and whether it was me doing Michael Jackson's Billie Jean, or we did like a spin-off of The Wiz where it's following the yellow brick, instead of the yellow brick road, it's the road to success and all that
Okay.
stuff. So I co-wrote that show and I played the scarecrow and you know
Okay.
all of that. And
Uh-huh.
then after attending a very brief semester at Mass College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences in their
Hmm.
physician assistant program, I I quickly realized that was not my path, and I just went full steam ahead with acting in Massachusetts. Kind of cut my
Wow.
teeth
Hmm.
learning, doing everything from short films, industrials, print modeling work when I was still very young and pretty, um, and uh, and then moved to New York. And worked there for years and years, and almost 8 years. And now I'm
Okay.
currently in LA.
Hmm.
So, I've kind of worked all over. I've worked in Atlanta too and all
Hmm.
over New England. So I've kind of been in all the major markets in in the country, and have just continued to learn and grow along the way.
Wow. And if you don't mind me asking, this is a question that's kind of off script a little bit, but through your travels between LA, New York, Massachusetts, and elsewhere, which city or location has benefited you the most as it pertains to your career? Where did you, see or receive the most work?
Well, that is a tough one to answer because I have reps in the different. I have an Atlanta agent. I have
Okay.
a manager here in LA.
Hmm.
I have a Boston agent. I've had New York agents and managers. So the work that I've gotten has sort of been dispersed through all of those, and through my own hunting for the jobs myself or creating the opportunities for
Hmm.
myself. I will say that so much of the success is dependent upon your experience as a human being. And I will say that living in New York, especially from my early 20s into my 30s, gave me a huge perspective change that I never would have had I stayed in Massachusetts, right?
Right. Right.
And that's nothing against Massachusetts. That's just to say that if you stay in your hometown, if you stay in the little bubble that you know and you're comfortable with,
Right.
you're just not going to see and experience and hear and know all the things that you would if you lived in other cities. And I've also been abroad, internationally quite a bit. So that
Hmm.
perspective, I think, has really fed into my artistry and allowed me to grow as an artist, as well as possibly booking more work because I have more of a well to, uh, pull from, if that makes sense.
Right, right. And it just, yeah, like as you're saying, it broadens your range. You get to see more than, you know, where you currently live, what being inside of your bubble, so to speak. And you get a chance to live some life. So you're able to carry those experiences with you and, draw from those experiences when you're acting, depending on which characters that you're portraying. So yeah, it's most definitely good to get outside of your bubble, and live a little, learn a little, and just pick up things along the way and utilize that to the best of your ability. Um, Now, you said that you were repped by multiple agencies, but the one agency that I was able to find is Key Talent Management. Was there a certain stage in your career where you felt that you might be ready for management, or like when did you know that you were ready?
Oh boy, I guess I didn't really quite think of it as like, oh, I'm ready. I
Hmm.
sort of, whether you want to call it naive or what, was just sort of like, well, I want it.
Right.
To have the audacity to go for something you want. Again, that's just like a lot of people want to do that and are afraid to. And I'm not saying I'm not afraid, but I just uh, I had enough gall or just passion for it to push through that fear and go after it. So I've done a lot of cold emails, even
Hmm.
some cold calls, a lot of the, networking workshops, pay to play type stuff to meet these people. And I've had a lot of different reps throughout the years. Key
Hmm.
talent management, they're great. My current rep there is Annie, and
Hmm.
we're pretty new to each other. It's only been, I think, a few months, and they've gotten me some great auditions, and they're good to work with and all that. But yeah, I've had a lot of different reps over the years.
Okay. Okay. Um, is out of the experience that you've had, and of course, along the way, not everything is perfect, right? There's going to be some good experiences, some bad experiences. Is there anything that you could potentially tell a young up and coming actor, maybe what to look for, or what not to do when approaching talent management agency, going in for the first time?
For sure. This is so funny because I was just thinking of this question, or just the loose question of just like, what advice would you give to anybody younger or newer to the industry? And
Hmm.
number one, I just want to say that, like, I believe that any advice that somebody gives is, number one, through their own lens.
Right.
And also, the older that person is, the more that that advice is coming from a different era.
Hmm.
So, somebody like Al Pacino is probably going to
Right.
have extremely different advice for getting into the industry
Right.
than, somebody like, I don't know, Anthony Mackie, who's,
Hmm.
half his age, right? Half Al Pacino's age. Um, or even like Lakeith Stanfield, or, Daniel
Right.
Kaluuya or whatever.
Hmm.
So there's that. Now, that being said, there are some kind of 101 things where, if you don't have the sense to like just kind of Google this stuff, like, you never pay a rep before you actually get the job, right? They're going to take 10, 15%, whatever it is, once
Hmm.
you've booked it. You never pay a rep in advance,
Right.
like that. And also, when you're looking for reps and you're maybe getting meetings, though they might be the only meeting that you have, the only person that's willing to see you, act like they're not, you know, act like you have 10 other meetings to have and see,
Right.
and come to the table with that sort of energy of, I don't need you. And of
Hmm.
course you don't need me or whatever, but like, do we vibe? Is there
Right.
a working relationship that's going to happen here? Or, is this the one and only conversation we're going to have? You might send me auditions and that's the end of it. Are you going to
Hmm.
have a game plan for, especially with a manager? Is there going to be like a game plan for this career?
Hmm.
Uh, or what? And also, don't be disappointed that your reps aren't going to do what you might think they would based on what you've seen in movies and TV.
Right.
I feel
Right.
like you watch a show like Entourage, or you see any kind of industry show, and the manager is like, "Okay, kid, I got a meeting set up for you. And, you're gonna go all the way to the top. I'm introducing you to this producer, and it's gonna be a game changer for you." Or that sort of stuff. Now, maybe that happens in the upper echelons if you're repped by, CAA, WME, UTA, something like that.
Hmm.
But in my experience, managers and agents are now basically like, they have the same job, interchangeable
Right.
terms here.
Right.
And there, unless you're brand new, there really isn't a lot of planning and career sort of like hands-on stuff. They're
Mhm.
mainly just going to submit you for jobs. If you get an audition, great. And if you get the job, of course they'll negotiate on your behalf, and try to get you the best deal possible and all that. But that's more or less where it ends.
Mhm.
You might get some recommendations for some photographers or some acting classes you might take, but you're not going to get likely a very hands-on kind of experience.
Right. There's a certain portion of it that is also up to you as the talent. You don't just purely put all of your trust and the willingness to pick up roles and whatnot, strictly based off of your manager or your agent. You also have to be proactive yourself and go for things yourself. You can have your manager and agent assist, to help you get through the door or to land that audition. But yeah, you also have to be proactive yourself, I believe. Um,
Couldn't agree more. And that
yeah,
includes
can't
submitting your
rely on just them and that's it.
right. You got to submit yourself for work,
Mhm.
through Actors Access or, Backstage if you want.
Mhm.
You can even find roles on Facebook and Instagram and whatnot these days.
Right.
You got to do your own networking, right? Unfortunately, the pay to play thing is that's a factor. And if you can meet these people and impress them with your work,
Hmm.
great. It might not help, but it can't hurt. Do the cold emails, like I said. Send out your reel and your resume to casting directors and producers. Now they
Right.
might say, "Oh, don't do that. I don't
Right.
want you to do that," or whatever. But you don't know. You don't know what their individual preference is, and sending it is not going to put you on some sort of blacklist.
Blacklist,
But
yeah.
yeah, and it might not help either. But it can't hurt to just be like, "Hey, I exist. I'm just trying to be on your radar. I think I'm good enough to be on the shows and movies or commercials or whatever it is that you cast."
Right. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Now I'm going to pivot a little bit. We're going to talk just briefly about comedy. Now, stand-up comedy is one of the toughest roads to take in this business. For you, what is it about stand-up comedy that keeps you passionate?
I like to say that stand up comedy is the healthiest form of immediate gratification.
Hmm.
So these days, we're all addicted to our phones
Right.
and computers and everything like that. And that immediate gratification is that instant gratification is tough, right? There's legitimate problems that go along with that and virtually no restrictions like there are with alcohol, gambling, any of these things.
Hmm.
However, I think it's the healthiest because I'm we're all in the room together. I
Right.
have taken the time to put together a routine, whether it's 5 minutes, 7, 10, 15, half hour, whatever,
Hmm.
that I've crafted literally for your enjoyment and your laughter, hopefully, which, luckily to this day, I've yet to bomb really. But this routine that I've put together, should you laugh and enjoy it, means that in real time I'm giving you energy, you're giving me that energy back.
Right.
I've created something for you, you enjoyed it, and you told me that you enjoyed it with your laughter immediately.
Hmm.
Uh, and that is a very beautiful, rich thing, and it can never be duplicated exactly.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Every time you do a stand-up set, it's completely different. People laugh in different spots that you wouldn't have expected, or somebody shouts out and says some weird thing, and then you're on this whole other tangent doing crowd work or what have you.
Right.
Uh, and you might not even remember where you were to come back to it, but everybody's just with you in that moment that it's so fun.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think there's just something about that energy exchange and having that real moment in real time with real people uh, that
Yeah.
drives me to keep doing it.
Yeah, and it's also the storytelling. A big part of it is being able to captivate an audience, and get to be able to get them to laugh, to be able to have them before they even get to the punchline, to have them sit there and listen to you tell a story leading up to the punchline, to get them to laugh. And I feel like comedians are strong storytellers, especially the good ones. I mean, there's a lot of good comedians out there, but that is a talent within itself that is not easy to come by. It's a lot harder than what most people think to get up on stage and to be open and vulnerable like that, and also to be able to make a group of people laugh, different walks of life, different personalities, um, and to be able to tell a story that's captivating that people will remember. Your jokes are memorable, but also the story that you told is memorable. Um, and so I find it interesting, and I also think that comedians don't get um, a lot of praise in that regard. Oftentimes, you'll hear people say, "Oh, this person's hilarious, this person's funny," but it takes a lot to even be able to craft the stories that you're telling and to be able to come up with 30 minutes of content or an hour of content for stand up, and to be able to, pull that off successfully night after night after night, different crowds of people. So I wanted to ask that question because it in my eyes, I think it would take a lot to remain passionate at that, and to keep going, and to know what drives you as a comedian to want to continue to do that, and to love to be in that space.
For sure, and I appreciate the question. I'm glad that you brought up the storytelling aspect of it because that is sort of what I think separates. Well, I don't want to say like the good from the great because there are plenty of comedians who are. I feel like there's two sort of main ways, two different types of stand-ups. Really, there's
Hmm.
the one where it's just constant set up punchline, just a barrage of jokes,
Right.
right? You know, a Rodney Dangerfield type, right,
Hmm.
or something like that. Um, and then there's like a Dave Chappelle or a Bill
Right.
Burr, a Ricky
Right.
Gervais,
Hmm.
where there's there's a continuity to it. There's a through
Hmm.
line, there's callbacks, and
Yeah.
to me that's the most interesting. So even though I might only get 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, um, my sets always have a through line and some sort of thing that I'm saying, about myself or the way I think, or there's some sort of like overarching theme or something like that, right?
Right.
So I think that's a very important thing that I try to like follow in the footsteps of like a Dave Chappelle or like Bill Burr by
Hmm.
having it be storytelling forward instead of just about the jokes.
Right.
And then to be clear, though I have done and do stand up, I would say that like my comedy aspirations and the reason for doing it is much more lean towards, comedic acting.
Right, and I was going to get there, but I just wanted
Oh,
to start with the stand up portion, only because I see that you've done stand up
yeah,
comedy, and that's one aspect of storytelling that I feel like doesn't really get talked about enough, especially in the comedic world. See interviews here and there where you might get a question or two, but they don't really dive deep into that aspect. It's just more so about you know getting to know the comedian and them telling jokes about
right.
through their experience.
Well, it's also the comedy is not to sound too dramatic, but it's under attack. You know,
Yes, it
the
is.
the woke mob, a very small group of people, uh, suddenly got a whole lot of social cachet and power in
Mhm.
recent history, and stirred up a lot of trouble over jokes.
Yeah, yeah.
Over some funny storytelling and lighthearted, like, oh, let's poke fun about who we are, what we do, what we've been doing, and the sort of ridiculous things that have been defining people as of the last 5 years or so. And
Hmm.
of course you can go too far,
Right.
but
Yeah.
to label certain comedians or like anybody as a bigot or a xenophobe or whatever based on
Hmm.
their stand-up comedy routine is to totally take the comedy out of and what they're saying out of context.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to get back to a place where there's logic and reason and being able to differentiate, a politician who might say, "Oh, I'm fighting for your rights," but everything they do is really
The
against
opposite.
all of
Yeah.
our interest, and a
Mhm.
comedian who's just poking fun at at everything and everybody, but because that's kind of your thing, or you're most likely you're most connected to whatever the subject matter might have been, whether it's how you sexually identify or
Right.
your job or your occupation or your relationship status or whatever. Um, it's it's really not helpful to be so sensitive about that and not see the forest through the trees, if you will.
Hmm. Yeah, and and before we get off the subject, one last thing. Comedy is a certain part of it is poking fun of maybe something that people might find offensive, but it's also a means of highlighting something that, it's a cause for. Um, it is stirring the pot a little bit sometimes, but it can create conversation, and kind of force you to think about things sometimes, and put light on, shed light on things that you would otherwise think differently on. And not only that, you come to a stand-up show, you're in for the joke. So I don't understand why people get offended. You're going to laugh at something that might potentially offend somebody. You're going for that purpose. So
Right.
uh, that part definitely does baffle me. But there are some things that are off limits, I feel, but I also am open minded and open to the fact that these are jokes. They're not meant to hurt anybody or cause harm.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's all opinion, but since we're on
Mhm.
it, I'll push back a little bit and say that nothing is off limits, because
Right.
you
Yeah.
have to remember that the subject of a joke is not necessarily the target of the joke, right?
Right. Right.
And anything can be made funny if the joke is good enough, right? And that's the thing. The audience will tell you if the joke is good enough. If somebody
Right. If it's
makes
funny or not.
a joke about 9/11 or rape or abortion or any of these like things that are like super heavy, right?
Hmm.
And it's not funny, nobody's going to laugh. And that comedian is either going to adjust that joke or probably never tell it again. You don't
Right.
need to then go cancel them and
Right.
try to tear down their entire career and label them, some sort of hateful whatever. I mean, unless, of course, it wasn't even a joke and they just went on some angry
Right.
diatribe about
And
whatever.
they do it, multiple cities, and they just continue with it, even though
Right.
everywhere they go, they people find it offensive. But yeah,
Right.
absolutely,
Yeah. My little
absolutely,
asterisk is with great comedians, with an actual talented like comedian,
yeah,
where who isn't a bigot in any kind of way. That's the sort of the benchmark. But of course, any rando that you just see at oh, I just went to the Comedy Store, or, I went to the Cellar in New York or something like that, and some person I never heard of just said some really offensive stuff and nobody was here for it. The way you're going to cancel them is just not don't go to another one of their shows. you know
absolutely, yeah,
if
yeah,
they're not good, they won't make it. Trust me, you don't have to spend a lot of angry time trying to take them down. They're doing it themselves.
yeah. You're right about that. You're right about that. Now, okay, so now we're going to bounce back to acting a little bit. In the most recent Bad Boys franchise, Bad Boys Ride or Die, you landed the role of the doctor that checks out Will Smith after he suffers a panic attack. How did that role come about for you? And did you audition for it?
I did audition for it. I was in Vermont on shooting a whole different movie,
Okay.
and I get an email from my Atlanta agent saying that I have an audition. It's for a paramedic. The movie is called Conrad. The
Mm,
names in the thing are like super generic. It's like Trevor and and Chris or something. You know what I mean? I had no idea what this project was at all, and I'm like, oh, figures. I get an audition when I'm busy or whatever. So in between, shooting and stuff like that, I asked the producer, one of the producers, who happens to be a friend of mine, if he can help me out with the tape.
mm-hmm.
So he sent it in. Cut to a couple weeks later, I get a call from my agent saying, "Oh, hey, congrats! You booked Bad Boys 4." And I was like, "What?"
Excuse me.
Yeah, I was like, and it took me a second because I just, not only did I just even forget that I did the audition to begin with, because that's another little philosophy of mine is I like to do the audition and then forget about it as quickly as possible.
Right. Submit and forget.
Right.
Hmm.
So it took me a second, and then it wasn't clicking that it was Bad Boys, Bad Boys. So I was like, trying to fish and not sound like an idiot. I was like, "Do you know who's in it?" And she goes, "Other than Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, I'm not sure." I was like, "So it's what I think it is." Oh my god! And I'm like, "Oh, okay, great, great, great." Now cut to me in Atlanta. I'm supposed to shoot the next day, but they push it because they're running behind, shooting schedules and how that goes.
Hmm.
Uh, and I don't find out until like the night before that my scene is even with them.
Wow.
So everything is kept top secret for if you audition for anything like Marvel, it's the same way. These big franchise things, they change all the names, they change all the details. They don't want you to know anything.
Yeah.
So, and in this case, I didn't even find out it was with two heroes of mine
Yeah.
until
Mine
the
too.
yeah until the day before. So,
Wow.
wow, yeah, it was wild, wild.
So okay, so let me ask you this: why do you think that is? I have my own opinion or thought as to why they do this, but why do you think that is that they keep everything under wraps?
Because you can't trust anybody. Nobody knows how to keep their mouth shut. Uh,
Okay. Yeah.
and look, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people on a project like this, right?
Mhm.
From PAs, I mean, to pre-production, production, post, right?
Right.
If everybody just had all the information, that would quickly become
Leak.
chaos.
Yeah, and it
And
would leak out
right,
faster than yeah.
right. This is the
Wow.
same reason for why we have, compartmentalization within the government, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes it's for the worse, right? It's like, we should probably know more than we do, but at the same time, all the information just can't be available to everybody because that's dangerous
Right.
for one reason or another. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the test, yeah.
Yeah. In my head, I was thinking maybe for audition purposes, it wouldn't trip up the person that's submitting for the audition if they knew who they were auditioning for or what they were auditioning for. Maybe there's a certain level to that, where that is, you know, um, in mind when they do that, but probably not. I think it's probably more so your answer.
Yeah, probably because I'll tell you if I did know that it was Bad Boys, I probably would have screwed it up. But
Yeah.
but I've never seen them do that for the sort of smaller things where there might still be huge names. When you audition
Okay.
for Law and Order SVU, they don't change the name or you know what you're auditioning for. You see Captain Benson now in the scripts, or Ice T's character or what have
Mm.
you. So you know what it is, and other bigger movies that I've done, it's like okay, I can look it up and see that so and so has been cast in it and sort of a bigger name.
Right.
Same thing with The Punisher and Station 19. Big
Right.
names in that, I knew who it was, but Bad
Mhm.
Boys is a different level, man. I mean, this is like the one of the biggest action, comedy
It-
franchises ever. So
Listen, the biggest this year, I think, for sure, and it's continuously still doing numbers. It's doing things major worldwide, so it's not even just a nationwide phenomenon. It's a worldwide film, and you're a part of that, which
I
is
can't
amazing. And
imagine.
I remember the scene that you were in. Like this, which is wild. Like I know I would go around telling everybody that I was in this movie.
And I am.
Right, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and like how much time did you actually get with them?
I was with these guys all day, all day. I got brought into this, warehouse that they fitted to be this, cool warehouse party type scene. You have to go down a set of stairs. So I'm at the top of the stairs and I'm just looking at the organized chaos that is a film set. I mean, hundreds of people flying around and doing all kinds of things. So
Hmm.
there's already that energy, plus my own excitement of like, whoa, I'm about to
Yeah,
meet my
we're out
heroes.
here
Now, quick
about to
side
really
note
do
too.
this.
Yeah, the year before, I had gone to Will Smith's book tour he was doing
Yes.
for his autobiography. They did a stop at the King's Theater in Brooklyn, and I had
Hmm.
gone to that with my lady and my cousin, and
Hmm.
it was an emotional like roller coaster. I mean, Spike Lee was hosting,
Wow.
OG Aunt Viv and Hillary were there. He brought out DJ Jazzy Jeff, and they did a couple numbers.
Wow.
And by the end of it, I was like, I'm gonna work with him someday. I don't know how, but like, I'm just, I gotta manifest this thing.
I was gonna say you did. You manifested it without even knowing.
Without even knowing it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
sometimes I think that stuff is a little woo woo, and I'm like, oh yeah, sounds good. But this is one of those moments where I'm like, it, either it's a big old coinkydink or there's something to, really kind of focusing in on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now,
Absolutely.
anyway, I get brought down the stairs.
Uh-huh.
And they're like, hold here for a second. And so I'm holding and I'm looking around, and then I see like Will's profile. He's like starts to turn and he's talking to somebody or whatever. And my heart dropped down to my stomach. I got nervous in a way that, like, and I've met slash worked with like other big names, but this was like,
Yeah. Big.
dude.
Right.
So they bring me over and I had no chill, man. Will was, they were like, Will, this is Alex. Alex is Will, or whatever. And he daps me up or whatever. And he's like, hey, how you doing, man? And I just, with like the biggest, like cheesy smile on my face, I was like, so good. I was like, okay. And in my head, I felt it. I was like, bro, relax, relax, relax. And so
Hmm.
we were good or whatever. And then we got a chance to be alone for a second. And
Hmm.
I was like, hey, man, I got to get something off my chest. And then we can go back to being totally professional. And he just kind of looked at me for a second, like, what is this about to be?
Right.
And then I was like, you're my hero. I love you ever since Fresh Prince. And, I named all of his movies. And I was like, you have a big quote that like always got me through the years. And he finished the quote with me, like, as I said it. Um, and just like took the energy, like that, all that great energy. And he was like, great, we're gonna have a great time today, whatever. Then Martin, I got to basically have the same moment with him too and be like, dude, stand
Hmm.
up.
Yes.
Martin, Big Mama's house, you know what I mean? Like everything, Bad Boys, like, come on, dude. Um, and we talked about this stand-up moment that he had where Spike Lee was actually in the audience and he made fun of Spike, and he remembered that like it was yesterday. He was like, you know why I said that? Because he was making fun of Spike Lee's walk, because he's got that limp. He was like, you know why I did that? Because the last time he came to my show, he made fun of my ears. So I said, all right, I'm gonna get you back.
And he kept his promise.
And he kept his promise. And they were just like super cool and good energy the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
Will is exactly what you think he is. I mean, he's just like, you can hear him from the other side of the room, like, oh,
Right.
like doing that thing. Martin, surprisingly, saves everything for on screen.
Really?
In between setups or takes, he's quiet, he's pacing, he's just like
Wow.
keeping to himself. He doesn't need to do anything extra. But
Yeah.
when the camera turns on, he is there. And like when you've seen the movie, he is
Yeah.
bringing the jokes on this one.
Yeah. No, he was in my eyes, he was a lot of the life of the film. A lot of the funny, hilarious moments in the film were Martin's moments,
Yeah.
for sure. Wow. Okay. And growing up with Martin, the TV show, the sitcom, he was always very animated and
Yeah.
active and bouncing around, and also loud and boisterous and all of that. But in recent years, he's really toned that down. And it to your point, it sounds like he went before in between takes. He's really like just dialed in and wants to stay dialed in until they say action again, and then he brings that character right back. And maybe he just doesn't want to lose it.
I think so. I feel like it's
Yeah.
also the sort of Jim Carrey thing, right? Where like,
Mhm.
now he doesn't need to be all kinds of extra when he's on the
Right.
talk shows, if he even is, right? He's doing his thing and painting and chilling out. And if a great movie opportunity comes along, like Sonic 2, I guess, he'll go and do that.
Yeah.
But actually, Jim Carrey and Will Smith were my two original inspirations. If
Oh
you
yeah. I mean, come on.
Right. If you watch my work with knowing that, you can see it. It's like these guys have just like, and Martin too, and a handful of others. Like my personality is just like an amalgamation of all of their work and just all the interviews I've watched of them, and just being
Right.
mesmerized by that energy and that excitement.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you mentioned it earlier, and I believe I mentioned it in the intro. But you've also starred in Station 19 and The Punisher, on Netflix. Can you talk a little bit about what those experiences were like?
For sure. The Punisher was my entry into the union, actually. So,
Oh
um,
wow.
yeah, I guess they had screwed up. The union had screwed up my social security or my name or something like that. So I had been a must join for a while before this, but didn't know it.
Mm,
And they found out when I booked that, and they said you either got to join or you can't do the job. So I was like, well, I'm going to join then.
yeah.
Uh, and it was such a small role. And they say there are no small roles for small actors. That's a lie. There are small roles. This was a one liner. no backstory, no like exciting spin I could put on it. I created my own little thing just to, come to the table with some juice just in case. But
Right.
you can't see that in a part like that. Uh,
Okay.
I will say though, working with Ben Barnes and Floriana Lima um, was a good experience. They were good energy and really nice, and we were
Mhm.
kind of joking and laughing for the day. Um, Also, the star of that show, oh, I feel terrible because her name escapes me, but I met up with her um, in the makeup trailer, and we
Okay.
really got to talking, and just had like a great conversation. I was showing her pictures from my acting class, being like, hey, this is me doing like a scene from from Tootsie. Look at my character work here or whatever, because she asked to see it and she was just impressed, and we had a great convo. I didn't get to work with her on camera, but she was a delight.
Mhm.
uh and the makeup trailer. And then for Station 19, that was my first job in LA.
Oh
um
wow.
I booked it off of a self tape, um,
Okay.
and no callback or anything. They just booked me straight from the first tape.
Wow.
I'm playing a drummer in a band with my band, and we're obviously not doing well because we're rehearsing out of a like out of a U-Haul storage kind of facility,
Uh-huh.
and we get trapped in there and we cause a fire. So the whole crew's got to save us, and there were actually some funny lines in there. I got to actually have some jokes, and virtually that entire cast was a delight as well. Very kind and welcoming and respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost everybody was great. So
Awesome. Now you also do voice acting, correct?
sure do, sure do.
Um,
Can't you
are you
tell?
able to are you able to mention any of the voice acting roles that you've taken on? I couldn't differentiate some of the roles that you've done as it pertains to voice acting. So if you don't mind mentioning a couple of the roles that you've done in voice
For
acting.
sure. Though all my voiceover work has been either commercial, industrial, e-learning, uh, like sort of like narrative storytelling.
Mhm.
It hasn't been, a video game or like animation. So I don't
Okay.
have like some sort of TV show to go point you to go
Right.
watch and hear my voiceover work. Though for anybody listening, I would love to. I got the home studio. I can come in. I got all the accents and voices, and I would be delighted to come do some cartoon character or something to that effect.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, a lot of
and don't
commercial
please
stuff.
don't take this the wrong way, but I feel like you have the voice for that, and also even hosting, um, you know, those kinds of things. You have that strong voice, in my opinion, that could carry a show or a reality show, a game show, things of that nature. Have you ever thought about expanding out and branching out into taking on some of those roles as well?
Absolutely. It's just about whatever opportunities cross your plate. So I've not been approached yet to
Okay.
host some game show or some talk show or something like that. But if one of the major networks or somebody wants to finally have a black host, who, and this is no, I got to say this because I've been ruminating on a project about this too. So anybody listening slash watching, don't steal my idea. But since Arsenio Hall, we've not had like a talk show host on a
Man.
major platform who's an African American. And no shot against Trevor Noah, but he doesn't have the African American lens, right? When you're South African,
Right.
it's a completely different thing. And I'm not taking away his blackness. I'm not saying any. I think that dude is talented. He's funny.
Yeah.
He's done amazing things. So no shot against him. But this
Mhm.
is a shot against the system, which is like America and the entertainment industry hates African Americans so much that they'll bring a black guy on to do a show like the Daily Show or something, but he's got to be from another country and he's got to be light skinned and he's got to be the least intimidating, most family friendly kind of person out there. Now, mind you, so is Jimmy Fallon. He's a very family friendly type guy or
Right.
whatever as far as
Yeah.
persona. But we've had edgier. Kimmel's not that buttoned up, and
Right. Yeah.
neither was Letterman.
Yeah.
So, I think it's time to have
Yeah.
an actual African American host of one of these. Even Charlemagne is maybe the closest thing, like right now. some sketchiness and some scandal going on there, also with
Mhm.
some, some interesting opinions that might not work, and also like the charisma and the sort of welcoming, let's get in there and talk about these things, isn't really there, right? And again,
Mhm.
no shot against, Charlemagne. Like, he's a god, right, in his own
Right.
respect, and is doing his thing, but it's different. And I've never seen somebody who looks like me, somebody who's black but has got the ambiguous thing going on. I got my Cape Verdean culture, which is essentially unheard of outside of my area. But there's so much I could bring to the table being a host of one of these shows or something like that.
Yeah,
But again,
absolutely.
it's all about whatever opportunities come on my way, and if it's right, I would do it.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like those opportunities will come at, when the time is right. And you'll have the pick of the litter at that moment in time. And I can see that things will definitely take off for you. I mean, they already have. You were in Bad Boys, Station 19, The Punisher. But you also have a slew of short films, and you also produce films. You have your own production company. Some of the short films that you've been in, you're an actor and a producer in. Now, as far as the producing side, the production side, um, what is your role as it pertains to the producer for these short films?
It depends on the project, because we've done 5 short films under the umbrella of our production company, as well as a comedy web series, and we got some other things in the pipeline. But I've
Mhm.
worn, and I've also produced well before even establishing the production company. So it sort of just depends on the project. Sometimes it requires me being a writer. I've had to do everything from hire crew, um, get cast, background actors,
Yeah.
crowdfund. Um, but my bread and butter, and where I really uh, feel like shine, is the creative producing, which we touched upon, which
Hmm.
is, likely be one of the people who either came up with the story, or maybe solely the person, and then building out the team from there, putting the writers
Right.
together, other producers, so on and so
Right.
forth. And also, quick shout out to my partner with Escape the Box, Richard Winger, great guy, talented actor, very driven,
Hmm.
powerhouse of a talent who can get anything done. I mean, this guy's a workhorse, and really great. And so I partnered with him because anybody who knows me knows that I like to work quickly and efficiently. And so
Right.
he's on that same bandwagon, and that's how we've been able to get everything done that we have, with getting into a bunch of film festivals, with getting
Right.
people excited about meeting us or working with us, contributing
Hmm.
money to our projects, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Shout out to Richard Winger as well. And as it pertains to the funding portion of these short films, you mentioned earlier crowdfunding. Is that the primary way that you are able to obtain the budget to do these projects, or is it do you guys have investors, or is that too digging too deep? Are you open to
Not at
answer
all.
answer
Not at
that
all.
question? Okay.
No, no, yeah. Some of the projects have been self-funded. Others have been, we've used crowdfunding, so Seed and Spark and Indiegogo and that sort of a thing, very
Hmm.
traditional for indie filmmakers. And
Hmm.
for the projects moving forward, we're focusing on 2 projects in particular. One is a comedy series based on the web series that we made, which did very well in festivals and critically.
Hmm.
And then another one is a feature film. It's a dramedy, drama comedy feature. And so for those projects, we'll be probably doing some combination of crowdfunding and seeking investors,
Right.
and grants and everything like that
Yeah.
to
Because those are
get
bigger
that moving.
budgets.
Yeah, we're looking in the 6 figures for the feature.
Okay. Okay.
Especially the show's going to need a lot more.
Okay.
it depends on the platform, right? If we get something like Roku or Tubi or something like that, it's like, we'd probably get lucky if we got $1 million for the whole season. But best
Hmm.
case scenario, it lands on one of the bigger sort of streamers like Max or Apple TV Plus, Amazon, Hulu, that sort of a thing. And we get, you know, several million or a few tens of millions or something like that to
Right.
get a quality season one made. Um, but the feature we're working on first, I think the idea is sort of get the feature made, do really well at either some of the big festivals or through a small theatrical release
Right.
or something, some combination like that. We're looking at our options and then use that success and clout to get the show made.
Okay. Okay. And as far as the shorts are concerned, you say you have a couple projects in the pipeline. Are you open to speaking about those or not yet? Those are still under wraps
The projects in the pipeline are the feature and the
in the
series.
series, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I guess the ones that are in the pipeline, maybe they're, because they're still in production or pre-production. You may not want to speak about those, but maybe one of the shorts that you've completed recently.
Sure. One of the most recent one is a dark comedy we made called Last Night with the Devil.
Yes.
I co-wrote, co-produced, and co-starred with my very talented friend Rose Lane Sanfilippo.
Hmm.
We met in acting school and just love hanging out and working with each other. Just great friends. And we wanted to figure out some way to work with each other and came up with this idea that this well-to-do brother, like doing really well financially and like career-wise, is still extremely depressed and is its life is not going well otherwise. And he finds himself in a face-to-face interaction with the devil where he learns some hard truths about himself
Hmm.
and how to find personal happiness. So it's a fun little short. It's been getting into a good handful of festivals so far. We have a bunch more to
Yeah,
hear back from.
I saw that.
Yeah, we're going to be at
Yes,
the
I saw
Georgia
that you.
Comedy.
I was going to say the Georgia Comedy Film Festival.
Yeah,
Congratulations on that. That's the most recent.
yep, yep,
Yeah.
sure is. And the we've had a handful of others. Hold on, hang on to your shorts is another one of them. Fun one out in Jersey.
Mhm.
We also have Laugh After Dark is coming up soon as well. So we're doing pretty well, I think, as a production company, especially in a very funky industry at a very funky time
Right.
for
Right.
things. There's the sort of Wall Street and tech company takeover of Hollywood, really shaking things up for indie filmmakers like myself and also people who are way further along than I am are also trying to figure things out. So to be getting into
Right.
these festivals and having conversations with people like you and drumming up excitement about the type of stuff we're doing, especially in my local community back home, which is how I think we sort of initially got connected through
Hmm.
Renee and all that. Um,
Yes.
it's nice. It's like okay, things are things are still happening despite the chaos and the craziness.
Oh yeah. And at the end of the day, you really never know who's watching, who's paying attention. So you have to keep things going and just stay consistent. About your crafts. Stay passionate. Stay faithful in knowing that at some point things are going to begin to happen. As long as I stay, you know, um, steadfast down the path. Um, and yeah, you'd be surprised as to the results that you get just by being consistent and just showing up every single day and working on your craft and focusing on it day in and day out. Um, yeah, a lot of good things come out of that.
For sure.
Um,
I'll tell you the quote that I said that I the Will Smith quote that I said to him that we finished together, which is applicable here, is that there's no room for plan B because it distracts from plan A.
it does. It really does.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm either gonna make it,
Hmm.
in this industry, or I'm gonna die, whatever comes first.
Well, let's hope you make it first.
Right. Right. But I would be chasing this even as an octogenarian,
Mm,
with some sort of side job or whatever if I had to, because
right.
I here's my own quote is you have to love you have to love the craft more than you hate the industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of convoluted things that happen within this industry and a lot of gatekeeping and a lot of negative energy and negative things. But
Hmm.
instead of focusing on that, you just hold on to how much you love this thing and how fun it is, and how there's nothing else you'd like to do more, and just
Right.
find a way to keep doing that. And so that's honestly why I got into producing, because I just wanted to make things I was excited about instead of solely audition for these one-liners and things that are still so impossible to get. Like, how long it took me to even get the one-liner on the Punisher. I mean, it's like, for
Yeah.
these types of roles they should just take a handful of submissions, go eeny meeny miny mo, and there you go. Like, here's your first kind of
Right.
bigger job. Like, even holding auditions for that, it just seems kind of silly. But keep holding on to your passion, your love for it, your little spark of madness, as Robin Williams said, and just don't let go of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Alex, what is next for you? I know you say you have some things down the pipeline, but outside of that, do you have anything else next that you're able to speak on?
Yes, so I just randomly shot a series of Geico commercials
Oh,
that should
Geico.
be.
Okay.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So watch out, Flo and Jake. There's a new brother in town. Um,
Absolutely, man. Yeah, and there's big money in that. There's not, not to. I'm not saying you're looking down on it, but a lot of people don't realize that those that can potentially be a career for some folks.
for sure, or at least a
Yeah.
career, jumper, because
Yes. Yes.
in the example of Flo from Progressive, that actor
Hmm.
was, if I remember correctly, this Progressive audition was either the last or one of the last before she was about to just hang it up altogether. And
Really.
she booked it, and now she's making over six figures on just residuals, never mind what they pay
Yeah.
her to do each spot or each campaign. Now, I
Right.
don't even know if she's still making them to this day, but she's for sure set for life just based on these Progressive commercials. um the Sonic guys, same thing.
Yeah.
Jake from State Farm, same
Hmm.
thing, right? You never know. The libbity bibbity guy,
Yeah. I was
like,
gonna say.
so there's many examples of it being a jump starter, and at least be able to help you pay some bills. But
Yeah.
also, best case scenario, you get to actually inject some of your own humor in these things.
Hmm.
Now, I will say, when you're working with such a big, like Geico or whatever, and this is new, Geico's not even the first sort of bigger company I've done commercial work for, but most of the time it's got to stay pretty vanilla, pretty family friendly. Nothing at all can be possibly construed as
Right.
negative or whatever towards the brand.
Hmm.
So it's tough to get the jokes out there, especially when it's like, oh, we want you to be able to like improvise and whatever, and then you give them like an hour's worth of just turn the camera on, let me go, and whatever, and then you see the spot and you're like, wow, that's what you picked out of everything that I did. But there's all kinds of corporate shadowy figures in the background making these decisions. But
Yeah.
I did 5 different spots,
Wow.
and they
Wow.
should
5.
all be out within the next month and change or so. So anybody
We're
who's
gonna
watching
start
that,
seeing your face everywhere, man.
that's the goal, my man. You guys are gonna see me so much, you're gonna be sick of it. Like, just fine, give him whatever he wants, so I can stop hearing about it.
Right. No, that's exciting, man. That's gonna be awesome when I turn on my TV and I'm, hey, there's Alex. I
Right,
know him.
right, right,
That's gonna be amazing, man. That's gonna be
right,
cool.
right.
Well, Alex, that's pretty much what I had for you. At the end of every interview, I like to give my guests the final word, whether that be a piece of advice, words of encouragement, or a quote that you like to live by. You've already dropped so many, very important quotes and gems throughout this interview and episode, and I thank you for it. But if you have anything else extra that you would like to add, um, I give the floor to you, man.
Sure. Well, just thanks to you. Thank you for this platform and for creating the space for us to be able to do this. I really do appreciate you and what you do. I want to say thank you to everybody who's watching this and everybody who is interested in actually lifting each other up if you're within the industry or the field, or just supporting indie filmmaking, because I'm sure you all agree that it's typically a lot more interesting than than what Hollywood is given us over and over again.
Right.
Um, on a positive note, I want to say to people, just hold on to that little kid excitement and that energy and those butterflies over whatever it is that you're passionate about. It's so easy to get caught up in the minutia of everyday life, and every time you open your phone or watch the news, it is catastrophic news.
Mm.
So the more you can shut that off and get away from that, and not focus on the day-to-day calamities, and the more that you can create positive energy and positive vibes for people, we will all benefit more from that, as it is better to light a candle than to curse the darkness, right? um, and then finally, if you dig what I've had to say, you like me, you want to see my work, what have you, please go and follow me at Alex Joseph Pires on Instagram, TikTok. Those things are I post on the most. Of course, you can find basically everything on my website. That's alexjpires.com. And my production company is Escape the Box Productions. That's our website, as well as our social media handles. And we would love all the follows, likes, shares, support,
Yeah.
awareness, and eventually, when we need it, money, to tell you the stories that y'all want to hear. So,
Right.
yeah, thank you.
Hey, well, Alex, thank you so much, man. I truly, truly appreciate it. It was great talking to you. I loved our conversation. You answered all of the questions that I had and more. And yeah, this was a pleasure to have you on. And I'm glad that we were able to connect, and that Renee was able to bring us together to make this happen. And I wish you all the success, and I know that you have a big career ahead of you. Even though you've been doing it, but it's going to get even bigger and better, man. If I have anything to do, on my end, if I know of anybody that I can put you in touch with, as it pertains to acting or comedy or writing or anything of that nature, I you know I like to share the information. I don't gatekeep, and I like to connect dots behind the scenes. So yeah, if I see something, man, I'm gonna make sure that I put you and whoever else together and to try to make it happen.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. And
Yeah,
back at you. If there's anything I can
yeah,
ever do for you, maybe you need some voiceover for the website, or a new trailer, or,
yeah.
um, you know,
I'm gonna keep you I'm gonna keep you informed on some things, because I have some things in the works, man. So for sure,
I,
absolutely.
I will be happy to help you in any way I can, my man. Thank you for sure.
Thank you, thank you.